it arises, it truly arises, because it truly arises from itself. They bring reason like that. So this, because they said everything truly arises from itself, self. Then many Buddhist philosophers, they debating on it, they analyze it, they investigate their reasoning. They see, as we mentioned on the last discussion, said if it arising from itself, it's then pointless. There's no point to rise. Arise means to exist, to appear. If it is already existed before it arises, then there is no point to arise. There's no point. So pointless. That's the main reason. But then the sarcastic way to attack this theory, okay, let's say if every result is already intensely existing in a cause time, then you have to facing so many unwanted consequences. Because in Shantideva, usually he was extremely kind of, he's Bodhisattva. Of course, Bodhisattva always very kind. And he usually looks really gentle and never show any kind of sarcastic or any unpleasant express and show others. But when it comes to debate, he also being quite sarcastic. And what he said that, okay, if you say like that, every result is already intensely exist in the cause time, then you have to accept yourself whenever you are eating meals, you have to accepting eating shit. Why? Because shit is a result of the meal, food. The result already intensely existed in the cause time. So that means that shit already exists in the food. Whenever you are eating food, you have to accept that you are eating shit. So this kind of he showed the result like that. Logic like that. This is a very kind of easy to understand it, but it really makes very sense, isn't it? So that's why it's impossible to things arising from itself. That is a kind of be kind of easy to imagine. And then the last weekend we also talk about things not arising from others, and because I just trying to introduce to the how things not impossible arising from others, because when you say the others, that means you need to be together at the same time. Otherwise, the others, when you say others, it's just imagination. In reality, they can't be the others. So there's another logic which also can help us to understand this. That actually this logic is a kind of in a logic philosophy. He said, what he said that if anything happened at the same time, anything is happened at the same time, then those two have no link. If anything is happened in the earlier and later, or the different timing, which is when it comes earlier, when it comes later, then either one does not exist. When is exist, which one exists? Either one doesn't exist. So there's only two possibility in this world. Things happen. For example, cause and result. Cause and result, in logically, they can't be at the same time. Cause will have to be at the cause time. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Result, they only have to be exist in the result time. So it's a different timing. When cause does exist, result doesn't exist. When result does exist, cause doesn't exist. But gross level, yes, do. Gross level, it's just father and son, parents and child. It's appearingly in the cause, result and the cause, right? It looks same, but then when really we go deeper, subtle level of the cause and result, then as I mentioned, every moment, everything is changing. Every moment. This also we need to know. If we don't have this concept of impermanent, subtle level of impermanent, then also it's very very difficult to comprehend this. How impossible to cause a result when like others. So this I just would like to introduce. I would like to talk with you that like a gross level. If we have the sense of this logic in a gross level, then we can apply in the subtle level very easily. Let's say a person say life expectancy is 80 years. Just 80 years. And so that person is right now 20 years. Just we said 20 years, okay? Last year is 19 years. Apparently, it's the 90 years old man and 20 years old man who are going to be in this world for 80 years. It's the same, isn't it? Apparently, we think it's the same. No much change in things. But when we go in this kind of subtle level logic, when we investigate in the reality, everything is completely changed. How do we know if this 20 years old one is no different from the last year one? Then, for example, in the last year, probably he is still alive here, 61 years, right? If his life expectancy is 80, so if he's 19, that means he still have a 61 years, right? So once he reaches in the 20, he's only 60. So if you think like this way, for example, like once you reach in 78 years, 79 years, usually we think it's the same person, right? The same person. But it's completely different because 79 years old one is the body or everything is only will remind one years. But in 20 years one still will be remain for another 60 years. You know that this changing, all the changing. Why? This is why we're changing. Why we changing? It's because it's a subtle level is the changing. Subtle level is that every moment is changing. That's why it is changing. Otherwise, in a subtle level, for example, the things, the moment, if it remained without changing in 2 seconds, without changing, if it remained abiding without change, and remain 2 seconds, then second time and the second time have to be exactly the same, right? Exactly the same. But if the first, second time and the second time is exactly the same, then second time is also it have to be to remain the 2 seconds one. You have to remain 2 seconds because it's the thing which remain 2 second one. Okay, this it's a confusing, right? This logic is it will make sense. I know that all of you have learned in science, so okay. So the first the 2 seconds. If the things is remain 2 seconds, it's a still gross level moment, but 2 seconds. The first second time it will remain 2 seconds, right? If in the second time, if it's not changed, then it has to be remain 2 seconds, right? But in the second time, it's not a thing which remain 2 seconds. It's that will cease that moment. The first second we think it's remain 2 seconds, but second time it's not remain. It will cease that time, right? So this is what this show, because first, second time and the second time it's changed. It's changed. If not changed, then it's have to remain another second. Then not change another second. That forever have to remain. So this is the logic of the subtle level of establishing the impermanent. Once we have this sense, then we can have the easy to concept of things not arising the others. You know, everything is a moment. Everything is moments. Cause, resultant, cause was not remain. Cause is not remain. Cause already ceased. And cause term, the duration of the cause term, or when cause does exist, the result already ceased. So then our imagination, they're putting together and then it's born from others. But in reality, in their place, when does exist, another is not there. When another is not there, other not there. So that means that in reality, things does not arising from others. So if because the cause and result in reality, there is no any kind of a link. You know, there's no link. It's no different whether the cause or uncause. If anything is others, then there's no different. So if the result that born from others, then means result you have to accept the result arising from cause, uncause, anything. You know, all things. That's why flames. You should accept the flame arising from darkness, something like that. That's kind of logic bro here. That's a little bit kind of confusing. Okay, then obviously we can't go detail of those many the debating between Chandrakirti and mind-only school on this case, arising from others. But just I share you some point. Those really help us to make sense on this sense. And then if we think okay, things are not arising from self, from not others, but it's arising from both. If we think like that, we also have a tendency like that, and also some philosopher like Janice do accept like that way. But then Chandrakirti said, then if you accept like that, you cannot avoid the logic which make it contradictory for self-awareness and rising from others. Both the logic will refuting your thesis you assert, and then not arising arising from no cause. That is actually in India, most of the philosophers very much looking them down. They view their theory, but their theses are very similar as modern. Many people think. I mean, it's arising from no cause. But then the logic, how the Chandrakirti or those refute their thesis is, they're saying that if the things arising from no cause, that means things have not dependent on anything. So then you have only two ways. Or you either arising everything at the same time, or never arise. Because why the human's head, why human head has no horn? Human head, on human head has no horn, right? Why? There's no reason, because the horn on the human head can be arise because they're not doesn't have to depend on the cause condition, right? So usually in a yak's on the yak's head has horn, two horns, but a human's head don't. So this is because the yak's head has a cause and condition to arising horn, and human's head doesn't. And the horns usually depends on cause and condition. That's why it's generally like that. But if everything is arising from no cause, then there's no any reason why we don't have the horn. So, and farmers, why only get harvest after have a raining? You know, all those things, it's all kind of really obvious things are not arise from no causes. So then, if things are truly existed, then it has be truly arising, either it's self or others, both neither. Since they are not arising from itself, both others, neither, that means that things are not truly arising, and in reality, things are not truly existed. In reality, when talk about like existed, the things are not dependent for rabbit horn in reality. Say like that. So and then why then the rabbit horn not arising in a relative level as well? If not arising, then how can we see? How can we think? Things are how if they are what we see, what we heard, what we the smell, all those things are obviously arise in, and so if they are not arising from itself, from others, both another, then how could it be? Then And then also, how can we see if the things are not, it doesn't exist in reality? How can we see them? How why then how can we heard if the sound is not truly arises? How can we smell if the smelling doesn't arise in reality? Then Nagarjuna said, okay, let's see. We are not denying these appearances. We are not denying the relative truths of whatever we see. But in your sense, what he said, first, for example, like some have a eye sickness and they see the black lines, hairs on the right. So Chandrakirti is asking the mindfulness school. Okay, you go first to the person who has illusion. Okay, basically who see black lines on the white clean paper. You go to there debating with him. The black line doesn't exist on the white paper, white wall. Black line or hair has never truly arising on the paper wall. You should debate on why you can see it. If the things are not truly arising, if you cannot see it, then those who has black, and also you can debate with the people who are dimmer, because the whatever they dream in the dream, they are in reality were not truly arise, but still they can see, heard like that. So you should debate with them. Then after that, come back to me and I will tell you. He said like that. So this means that that which in an ordinary perception or in our perception, the things are we accept arise. We not accept it arising independently. We are Madhyamaka philosophers usually accept that these things are arising. It's dependent arise. So, for example, I would like to discuss on this the analysis of all the phenomena, which is a dependent origination, because if we do some analyze or investigate on it, it will help us when we do discussion on emptiness, which is free from four extremes. Because emptiness, when establishment of emptiness, which free from four extremes, is usually established by this dependent origination logic. So dependent origination, this logic is depending. We know that chicken depends on the eggs. Egg depends on the chicken. Without analyze, it is obvious. It is already obvious. I think one of us know about it. So, in a Madhyamaka, will accept chicken eggs exist in relative level, in our ordinary sense level, it accept. But Madhyamaka saying that chicken does not truly exist in reality. In reality, chicken doesn't truly exist because it arising depend on eggs. just we accept dependent arise. Accept dependent arise is not accepting it arising from itself or others, neither, no cause. So we just not denying to arising from itself, others, both, neither, but we just relatively accept that things arising from just depends on cause. When we go deeper, if the chicken truly existed, or then chicken inherently was born. If chicken inherently was born, then egg absolutely have to exist before chicken was born. But then egg also depends on the chicken. Egg also depends on the chicken. So that means the chicken definitely have to exist before the egg was born. Then which comes first? We usually don't. We only answered we don't know which comes first. Which one of them. So actually, it is telling us those chicken and egg are not truly existing in reality. That's why we are not finding which comes first. So the answer of which comes first, you will get when you realize the emptiness. Until that, you will not get the answer of the which comes first. Why the depending on others, that means it's self is not independently existed. It already depends on others. So anything already depends on already depends based on something. So that means in reality it wasn't born. That means in reality, then its nature is not intrinsically existed. So this is the dependent origination logic. So there are two types of the dependent originations. For example, smoke depends on the fire. Fire depends on food or some kind of other conditions. So if either one of them doesn't exist, then it couldn't exist. That is dependent arise. Interdependent in nowadays we're using a lot, but I still not really understand the differentiate interdependent or dependent origination. Maybe sometimes they think it's similar, but sometimes it's a little bit different. They're thinking some link inside to making net or something like that. If thinking like that, interdependent, then it's a different concept of the Madhyamaka dependent origination. So another dependent means, for example, usually we think right is absolutely existed, right? Right. But when we think right is absolutely already depends on the left. Without the left, right cannot be existed, like chicken and egg. Then, in order to exist, right is exist, left has to exist first. So, life is also depends on the right. Without exist the right, life is also can't be truly existed. Left, in order to exist, left is have to be existed right first. So which existed first? In reality, this means actually not truly existed. Without left, right doesn't exist generally. Without right, life doesn't exist. In a chicken and egg, same. Up and down, right and wrong, true and false, all dependent, depend origination. So anything kind of dependent on like this, that it means in reality they are not inherently existent, not truly existent. But this kind of emptiness is not denying any appearance. It is not denying any cause and conditions. You know, when it appeared things, at this very moment, it is emptiness. Because emptiness, that's why appear. Because the right side is not truly exist, that's why we have a left side. Because the life left wasn't truly exist, that's why we have we possibly have a right. All these are depending. Without also in numbers, two is depends on the one.